Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices like Destinies. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we find ourselves in a dark fantasy world where we're going around trying to discover and fulfill one of our two possible destinies. This is a competitive game for 1 to 3 players from Lucky Duck Games. It's an app-based, immersive, sort of choose-your-own-adventure style game. Let's take a look how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. There's 5 scenarios in Destinies, and in each one you have 3 different characters to choose from, each with 2 different destinies. Now I'm not going to show you the backs of those because they're sort of secret, I don't want to spoil anything, but you're going to be able to choose which character, and throughout the game you're going to be able to choose which path or which destiny you're going to try to fulfill. You can even try to follow both of them until you really decide which way is the best way to go for you for that game. And here's a look at some of the other characters that you'll be choosing from in some of the other scenarios in this base box. So this game is app-driven, which means you need the app to be able to play. And in the base game here, there are 5 different scenarios, as you can see. The first one is sort of a tutorial that will take, 90 minutes-ish to play. And then all the rest of them, they say you should do them in order because there's an overarching story between, the second and the fourth one. And those ones are going to take, 2.5 hours types of things, and it's for 1 to 3 players. So if I select a scenario, now you could choose a normal game, which is 2 or 3 players, or you could choose the challenger there, which is solo, which is, it gives you like certain time to get things done, or you can go explorer solo, and that is going to be basically open world. You can just go off and explore things and do things and see the game and things like that. And when you set it up, it's going to read a story, which I'm going to skip over now because I don't want to spoil anything for you.
In the dead of winter.
And then you'll be able to choose your character. Like in this first scenario, it's noble, witch, or huntsman. So let's say we go ahead and select the noble. And it's going to say choose your character. So maybe it's the noble and the witch. Those are the characters that are playing for the players this game. And it's going to go ahead and it's going to actually take you through setup. You're going to have intelligence and dexterity and power. There's going to be different tests that you'll do. It'll tell you which miniature to take. It'll tell you to take some coins. Take a sword. It'll give you an item like item number 14 as your starting item. And it will do the same for the witch, for example. And then it'll say, do we have everything? And you go, yep. And then it'll save at the end of each day. And so it's actually going to have you build the map. So it says the western part of the town, the church welcomes all. The town is locked and barred. It tells you place tile 2 face up as indicated. So you're going to go ahead and do that. And then it just has the church is the beacon of hope, and it says place the church. Done that. And it's going to tell you what goes on the eastern part of the town. So it's like number 23 will be face down, so you can't really see what's there. And then we've got number 11 there. Over there, the stone circle sands. And then below that, we have number 25, the forest. And then we have a wolf howls somewhere in the middle, number 16. And then you'd start. Now I have my noble set up here, and again, you have 2 different destinies. There's a secret on the back side. You're trying to fulfill one of those by the end of the game. And I've set up my intelligence, dexterity, and power with how it told me to set up. I've got my gold, I've got my sword here. I've got 2 dice. That every player will have 2 dice here. And at the beginning of each turn, everyone gets an effort die here, an extra die, to do some of the tests. Now, this game again is all about these tests and exploration and trying to fulfill your destiny, learn things, do different things. Now let me tell you how these tests work, because it's very interesting, is that when you have a test, you're going to roll the 2 main dice like normal, and then however many of these effort dice you have. And these range all from 1 to 4, but there's a different distribution, and this as well. So let's just say we rolled this. We would add this up, and we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'd look at 8, and everything 8 and less than is a success. Let's say we were doing a intelligence test. So this would be 2 successes. And there's a different amount of successes you need to do different things and different tests in this game, and you're never really sure exactly what's going to happen at each of the levels of success. It just depends on what you think is going to happen based upon the story. And so as the game goes on, you're going to be able to be moving these things up. Some will make them move up, some of them will make them move down. And so this is interesting, because as you move this down, well, this means that it's easier to get 1 success, but after 1, it's a little hard to get 2 of them, right? So maybe do I want to start moving this one down? Or instead of doing that, maybe I wanted to start bringing these ones down so that maybe to get all 4 successes, it's a little easier than it was before. And And then you can do that for each of these as different things come up in the game. So a lot of this game is managing as well these different stats with your strategies. And one cool thing about these dice are one of them has like a direct and actual success. So this actually treats it as a success, for example. Now I have the map set up as the app told me to, and on your turn you can move up to 2 tiles away, assuming that they're already face up. These ones are face down, so if I wanted to move to one of these, I would tell the app that that's what I want to do, and I would go in here and I would explore it and flip it over and different things would happen. Or I can interact with things in here, like going to the church and such. And a lot of this is, you first do it in the app because it's going to help you tell you what to do, and you're going to follow the instructions there, and then you'll interact with it. And so now back on the app here, you can actually zoom in and zoom out by pinching and stuff, and you can really zoom in on what's going on. And let's say I wanted to explore the tile to the right, I'd click that and it would say, hey, do you want to explore tile 23? And you would hit yes, and then it would tell you to flip it over, and then certain things would happen, but I'm not going to do that. But let's say we want to interact with the church, for example. I'll click there, it says visit the church, say yes. Now I'm not going to go into much more detail than this, but it just tells you a little bit there, and the priest approaches you, and you have a choice to make, right? You can either pray, or you could steal money from the offering box, which would be a dexterity test, essentially. You could ask what troubles him, or you could ask the priest about your destiny. And you see that one has an actual, a QR code there. So if I did that, it actually will start, and it'll actually allow me to go on, and I'm not going to do it, but you would scan the QR code on one of your 2 destinies, and it would tell you about that. So that's kind of how the app works with this, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to spoil anything. So I'm not going to show you too much more details about the game. I've kind of shown you sort of the main mechanism of the game. It's really story-driven, part of the app, and listening to things and being involved in the story, but sometimes things will come out like points of interest, and that will allow you to interact with those in the app. Sometimes you'll be putting trade stacks down, which means this. And then what you do is you take another token that looks just like that, and you're putting it off to the side of the board with a bunch of items. You've already seen the sword, so I'm just showing you this one, but this shows you how much the item costs and how much you could sell it for in different trade times and things like that. But this sort of tells you, different ways of buying and selling things, and those types of things happen as well. So when you're doing tests and such, if I didn't do a test, then next turn I would refresh another one of these. It's going to give me more success, more possibilities for successes and things like that. And now you know how these work. Look at this. In a power test, I don't roll any of my dice. Instead, I just basically roll a 10 anyways. In this case, it would be 2 successes. So that's just the general way that the game works. So it is a competitive game, of course, unless you're playing the solo game. But again, you're trying to fulfill one of these 2 destinies. And at some point, if you get close enough, you'll start a finale. That's going to be multiple turns where you're trying to sort of fulfill one of your destinies. And the first one to do that will be the winner of the game. Now, I did want to show the box here because the insert's really nice. It has sort of a top that keeps everything from being, jostled around. And once you take that top off, you can take out all the player boards. And below that is another top to keep these things steady. And then below that are all the cards. Below some of the cards, there's places to put tokens. And then there's more places to put tokens, lots of cards and storage here. So the storage in this game is really good. I want to mention that I was and am a huge fan of Seventh Continent. It was my game of the year that year. I would sit down and play that game for 6+ hours without moving. That's how immersed I was in that game. And I love Chronicles of Crime. It's one of my favorite crime-solving cooperative games. And you put those 2 things together, yes, this is a game that I definitely did enjoy. So let's tell you why. So this is a very immersive experience for sure. I mean, you've got the app that's playing these sounds and music, and it just really draws you right into the experience. You feel like you're right there. The images, the artwork on the cards, the ways that the items work are very thematic, and just everything about this game is very immersive, draws you right in for sure. Now, the mechanisms themselves, there's been a lot of games that are sort of that maybe possibly look like this. One that comes to mind is Tainted Grail that a lot of people love, and this shares some things with that. Choose your own adventure, putting the tiles down, going around, exploring, things like that. But in my opinion, Tainted Grail got mixed up with the minutia of the combat system, and even though it was very innovative and it was pretty cool how it worked, it really slowed the game down, and when it wasn't your turn and someone else was doing combat, it was just boring. I mean, so this gets rid of any fiddly mechanisms like that and just gets to the fun. The mechanisms do not get in the way of the story, and they don't get in the way of being able to actually go around and do things, and I like that aspect, but it still gives you some interesting choices that I'll get to in just a minute. Now the app. speaking of choices, the app itself, I love the app because, and I know some people just don't want apps in games, and I guess that, I get that some people don't like that, but it just really makes the game so much better. Because again, even in Tainted Grail, game was immersive, but you had to read from a book, and it's like not nearly as immersive as when the app sort of reads some things to you, or when you're using the app. It really, and in this case, it does a lot of smart things. Like, it knows what you've done on previous turns. It knows what you have. It knows this and that. And it's like, well, you know, when you go to a spot, you might have choices that are different from somebody else. And if you have recently gotten an item, then, you know, it might say, hey, you have a choice to do this here. And you're like, oh. And that choice wouldn't have been there if you didn't have an item. So it's like, it really just makes the experience tailored for each player. And I love that the app just like, it understands what's been going on in the state of the game and things like that. I really like that how players' destinies, even though they're secret, it's possible that they're overlapping, you know, like, so there's 3 characters, each of them have 2 destinies, and one of those destinies is going to overlap with one of the other characters. So if you're playing with 3 players, then both of your destinies are going to sort of like overlap with the other characters. And I like that aspect because you might be going for something, and somebody else is probably maybe really pointing for that as well. But I like that you can sort of change the strategy and go for a different destiny. You know, in the game that I just finished playing, I was going after one destiny, the other player was going after a destiny, and both of us ended up actually switching destinies. Because what I was doing was I was getting things that was actually the same thing that he was trying to get for his destiny. So he kind of went off that, went to somewhere else, and I went off mine because I couldn't get the amount of things needed for that on one destiny, but I kind of stumbled over and got things that were helping me with the other destiny. And I didn't want to go down that path, but I realized that I was actually further down that anyway, just because of the way the story went, where I was going, what I was doing. And I love that the destinies overlap and you can change mid-game. The skills system by far, even though everything in this game is really cool, it is probably the most unique thing, and it's the thing that I like the best. Because it's just so awesome how, like, these choices are, hey, I'm gonna move some of these skill check things, these markers down, and do I want it to make it so I can get an easy 1 or 2? Or do I want, you know, in one of these checks, or do I want to really make it be able to get 4 in another? You know, you can really work on power maybe and just slide all those things down so you're going to be really good at power. But you're probably not going to be good at anything else. Or do you want to like slide them down so you get, yeah, you're pretty good at getting a 1 or a 2 in pretty much everything, but you're not great in anything. And depending on where you are, depending on what items you have, depending on what those items do and how they comboing together some of the items with your abilities and such is part of the best thing. And that skill system really makes that thing shine. I like that even when it's not your turn, sure, there's, you know, sometimes players will do multiple things on a turn. They'll go to an area, they'll talk to this person, they'll do this, and sometimes it might be like 3 parts to their turn, and you're just sitting there, but kind of, but not really, because you're actually learning, because anything in the app is public, so they'll be reading things to you even when it's their turn, and you're learning hey, what did they just explore over there? Hey, would that help me with my destiny? Oh, there's this person there, and they said this. Oh, that might help me with this. I'll go over there. And they just heard about this, but I'm kind of closer to that, so now I'm gonna go run over there and get that. So I like that you can still learn from other players' turns. With that being said, I think 2 players is just right for this game. More than that, and it's just, sure, you learn more, sure, there's maybe more interaction and things like that, but there's still a lot more time when you're not actually doing something. And even though you're learning from others' turns, it's really fun being the one actually having the turn. I like that the app itself sort of adjusts things, like, you know, towards the end, you get to like your finale and stuff, you might have some items that might help you, either right before going into it or during it. And those items are going to change how difficult things are for you. So I love that the app sort of also tries to sort of balance things based on other things that you've done in the game that took time. It took time to go over there and get that item. It took time to do this, and then to go over there and get this item. And if you're able to use those items, it kind of speeds up how fast or how easy your Destiny finale is. And I like, again, that the app is so smart in that way. Now, a lot of people have been asking and talking about replayability in this. Now, yes, it is a scenario-based thing. Yes, it's a story. Yes, once you know the overarching story in a scenario, it's not going to be as interesting because you'll know everything. Some people, your mileage is going to vary. I could see myself playing each scenario at least twice, meaning I'll go down a path of this, and then maybe I'll go down a path of that. And I might play it 3 times so I can actually try each of the different sort of destinies once, regardless of character. But you're going to know some of the things. Now, some people might not want to even play it more than once. And I guess I could see that, but there's definitely so much more to discover in each scenario that you didn't get. So if you are okay with finding new things, finding new items, going new places, having different results depending on who you are, what you're trying to do, what items you have, if you're okay with that and knowing that what the overall story of that scenario is, if you're okay with knowing what that is going into it, but still playing out and seeing how things play out, you'll get multiple plays in each scenario. So I could see myself playing probably each scenario 2 to 3 times probably. And for me, for 5 scenarios, that's 10 to 15 games. That's more than most people play any game anyway. So I think the game has plenty of replayability, and it definitely got more than Chronicles of Crime, and I love that game. And with the scenario, with the expansions coming out, and by the way, I'm really interested into that sort of the desert, the sands expansion, because I really like that theme a lot better actually. There. So on the negative side, so overall, I really love this game. It's fantastic. But now there are there's some things that are negative I didn't like about it. Number one, the ending can be anticlimactic for others. The game's a race, essentially. The first one to do their destiny, one of their destinies, it's over. So you could be behind the 8 ball and 1 or 2 other players could already have just gotten into their finale, and it might take them, it's going to take them multiple turns, but it might, who knows how many turns depending on how well they do, where their stats are, what items they have, things like that. But it could take them a few turns, but even if you're not there, you kind of already feel like, well, there's really no way I'm going to win. Like, what am I doing here? I guess I'll try my best, but the game's kind of, I know I'm not going to win. And that can happen. So it can be anticlimactic for others. For me, it doesn't matter. It's not too bad because it's like, I'm more playing this, even though I want to win, I'm more playing it for the experience than anything. So, but if you're really like, oh, I want to play this to win, and if I could tell someone else is going to win, and if you don't like playing a game that's a racing game, when you can tell that you're not going to win, then that might bother you more than it bothers me, but it is a possible negative there. The miniatures most of them are tiny. They're very small to see. It's hard to find the right ones. People go gaga over miniatures. Quite honestly, I would take a cardboard standee with good artwork on it any day that I could see well over a small miniature. And who knows which one would cost more, but I would actually prefer the cardboard standee miniature with a good artwork than looking at a tiny miniature that you can barely see the details unless it's like an inch away from your eye. So I would have rather different things for that. In the app, I would love to see a back button. And they're updating the app every day, but there was at least 3 times in the last game where I literally just pushed the wrong button by accident. Whether it was I hit 0 skills check, 0 successes when I really meant to hit the right arrow, right? Or I went to this one area and I really meant to hit the tile above it because I just thought I was somewhere else and I couldn't hit a back button. I really kind of like wasted a turn. Really wish there was a back button. Hopefully they'll fix that. But overall, this is a fantastic game. It's really good. For the retail price of $49, you're getting a ton of game here. Lucky Duck Games does it again. They've been a small company, but they have grown so much lately and have some of the biggest hits in the game, in the game industry, and they're always pushing boundaries, and I love to see that from companies like this. They're definitely a growing company to keep your eye on Lucky Duck Games, and I really love Destinies. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games, and helping you find the next one you'll love. Game Toppers not only transforms your existing table to a high-quality gaming solution, they now offer full leg kits and dining cover solutions for the full table application. Paired with their amazing thematic premium stitched edge mats, collapsible cup holders, and really cool accessories, it is a complete system that upgrades every game you play. Get in on the goodness of Game Toppers 3.0 on Kickstarter now. Click the link below or go to GameToppersLLC.com.